Hi all, Rob here again, President of the Way Out West Roots Music Club. Today I had a chance to have a chat to the multi-talented Shane Pacey. Shane is of course the frontman of the legendary Sydney band the Bondi Cigars, as well as fronting the Shane Pacey Trio and also having sat in with the 4-Day Riders. The Bondi Cigars will be at Way Out West Sunday the 18th of Feb from 2pm. Tickets are selling fast for this gig. You can book tickets from our website or at the door. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I'm still aiming for 100 subscribers. So sit back and enjoy the interview, and we hope to see you real soon. Rock on, my friends. Looking good. So Shane, I believe you were born in Sheffield, Yorkshire. What age did you come over to Australia, and did you move straight to Sydney?
Um, I was 10. I came out with my family. And yeah, well, the first place we landed was a place called Cabramatta, which then was considered to be not really Sydney. It's all connected now. We were on the hostel there for a little while, then we moved to Burwood. And that's more of that's inner west really, so that was a bit better. Yeah, so I kind of, yeah, and then up until I moved to the country, that was always the kind of inner city was where I used to hang out.
I've been talking to a lot of musicians, and us baby boomers, we all seem to get into the blues the same way, via Led Zeppelin or the Stones. Was that your path as well?
Yeah, but I remember being attracted to the sound of blues, even though I didn't know what it was. Anytime I heard something bluesy on the radio, my ears would prick up, even when I was a little kid. So even when the Beatles, with the Beatles or whoever would do the occasional little bluesy thing, or just anything in a movie, my ear was attracted to the blue note, which is that kind of flattened fifth for musos. It's that sound, minor third, flattened fifth. So I was attracted to it even before I knew what it was. And then, of course, yeah, as you say, those guys like Cream and Cream was the band for me, and
Yeah.
Hendrix and things like that. Even though I was too young for it all, really. I was only when Cream came out, I was only 9. So I'm a late baby boomer. So by the time I got old enough, those bands had kind of done. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a long journey, that's for sure.
A lot of the musicians I've spoken to have been self-taught, but I do believe that you took guitar lessons as well.
Not really. No, I give guitar lessons at the
Yeah.
moment. But my strange enough, the only guitar lessons I ever got were from Angus Young. I used to know that family. I used to go to school with his nephew in back in the day, and I used to go and hang out there. And Angus was always on his bed with his little legs crossed, just doing fast licks. Even then, at the age of 14, and I was like 12, and I got him to show me some basic things. So he would say something like, "Ah, you just put your fingers there, and then all your scales there. There's your bar chord, there's your scale. That's about it." I just went from there, really. Listening to records like most of us did, and it's a long way around for learning music, but in a way it's better because you kind of go and live inside the music rather than just looking at it. These days kids have YouTube videos and a tablature, which is great. Got no problem with it, but if you actually have to listen to the music closely, you sort of get a bit better relationship with it. So I'm really fast at learning songs now, which I'm not sure how quick young people are. I've never really experienced it, so I don't know.
Now, I also believe that you were a choir boy, not the band. You weren't in the choir boys, but you were a choir boy.
Where are you getting this stuff from?
Oh,
No, I had a choir. Yeah, I did sing in a few choirs when I was little, but only school choirs, and didn't last long. I was too much of a rebel. I couldn't really. You know, I mean, you can't really hear it in my voice now, except my diction's very good. As far as blues singers go, I think you can actually understand what I'm singing, which is not always the case. So I think it left me with that, at least.
And what about when you did get onto the Sydney music scene? Were there any Australian bands that really took your fancy?
Yeah, I really liked. Well, in the early days, I really liked Chain and Carson. I was too young to go and see them. I just used to see them on GT. I was a loyal GTK watcher, which for people who don't know was a 10-minute show that used to be on the ABC after Bellbird. So I saw a lot of things like that. And again, it was the bluesy stuff that attracted me. It was Carson, Chain, bands like that. Billy Thorpe a little bit, but I don't know. Even then, it was a bit, yeah, it was a bit raucous for me. I think I was attracted to the bands that had a bit more of a groove, you know. So yeah, and then just later on, after I'd sort of been in a few original bands and stuff, I started going to watch the 4 Day Riders in Sydney, and I just loved what they were doing. They were so relaxed and so, you know, there was no pretentiousness about them whatsoever. Lovely guys. And then a little bit after that, I ended up sitting in with them, and then that led me to kind of getting the cigars together, and then now I play with the 4 Day Riders as well whenever they play, which is not that often, but it's bit of a circle, really.
It's interesting you mentioned Chain and Carson. Both those bands have been, until Paul Broad passed away, have been way out west. And getting GTK, I used to watch that. I think it was Getting to Know.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
first,
yeah, that was sensational. Some of the bands you've seen on that show.
and isn't it amazing? They're all kind of all those clips are now reappearing. Somebody has them, and they're just letting them out on YouTube every so often. You see these things that I thought I'd never see again. You know, obscure bands that from Sydney and Melbourne that, but still great. I mean, you had to be good in those days. To even get a gig, you had to be good. You know, so
I was
yeah,
going to ask about the 4 Day Riders, but you've given us a good explanation. They're absolute institution.
yeah.
And so is the Bondi Cigars. So how did
We know now,
yeah.
yeah.
So how did that come about? How did you form the cigars?
Well, we were all in different bands basically, and this goes on a lot now actually. But back then, you just played in your band and that was it. But we all had this sort of there was this spare Thursday night at the Bridge Hotel in Sydney, and we just got together and we didn't rehearse or anything. We just started playing, and that's been the philosophy of the band ever since. I think we shy away from rehearsal as much as we can, but yeah, I mean, and we found out very quickly that people really liked it in ways that they didn't like. I mean, Les and Ace, who were the founder members with me, with Alan and myself, they were in the Hippos and they were a very popular band. But it was reaching its kind of end. I think there were certain things happening in that band that they weren't happy with. So they were ready to go, and Al wasn't really doing much, and I was in a band but not really liking it that much. And so we decided to go for it, and it very quickly, I don't even know how it happened, we got a recording deal with the ABC. And then we put an album out, and that enabled us to go on tour, which a lot of blues bands didn't do. You know, like they just played in their own towns. And even now, that's still a little bit the case. But we're able to now, because of that, basically, we started going on the road, and we can go anywhere really and get a decent crowd. It's pretty good, really, after all these years.
I'm glad you mentioned Alan. I was going to ask a question. How integral is Alan to the sound of the Bondi Cigars?
He's, you know, the fair answer would be he's a quarter of the sound because there's four of us, and we all, you know, we all are an important part of the sound. But I think it's a bit more than that with Al because he's, you know, his bass is what gives the band its jump. You know, I think if there was ever a time when Al couldn't do it, and you know, it could happen in the next 10 years because none of us are getting any younger. I would probably close. I probably wouldn't carry on because he's that important. Not only that, but just the energy and the kind of loyalty he brings to the band. It's been very influential to me. You know, now we're both in competition to see who packs it in first. You know, it's not going to be me.
He is the groove master, and I just love watching him play because you can just see he goes to another place. I think he's fantastic.
Oh yeah, look, he's very reliable, and you know, it would be we've had fill-in bass players occasionally over the years, very rarely, but you know, but it's just never the same. It's just not. It's like it'd be a different band, and I don't know if I'd be that keen on it really.
The Bondis are quite unique in having two left-handed guitarists.
Yeah.
I love the interplay with you and Eben playing.
Yeah.
One of my favourite UK bands was a dual guitars, Wishbone Ash. Did you ever listen to them?
Well, that was my era, the 70s. You know, that I had all there. I've still got them actually in my record shelf. Yeah, they weren't. I don't know. We don't get in the cigars. We're more about interplay rather than doing. They were very big on harmonizing their guitars.
Mm.
in that way that Thin Lizzy did later. And we don't really do much of that, but there were certainly a band that I liked a lot. Because again, they had a big folk, as much as the blues influence with Wishbone Ash, they had a big folk influence as well, which I always like as well. A bit of
Yeah.
positive.
I'll tell you a funny, well, if I can, a funny story. We seen them at the old festival hall in the 70s, and
Yeah.
we had front row seats, which was great. And one of my friends who's since gone was a real chuffer and got out his joint and lit it up. And one of the guys, the guitarist from the band, said, "That smells pretty good." So Al passed it up to the band. It went round the stage and come back to us. So
I know
for a brief time, we were part of the band. It was great.
did the bands, but I saw that tour. I saw it at the Hordern Pavilion in Sydney. That's when they had Laurie Weisfield on guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were great. I don't think we were used to seeing bands as tight as that. That were that.
Yeah. And not
Together.
only you a sensational guitarist, singer, you're also a fantastic songwriter. Does the songwriting process come easy to you, or is it something you have to work on?
Um, well, I find if you have to work on it, that's what the song sounds like. It sounds worked on. So I only really do things when they're coming easy. There's a little bit of tidying up to do at the end, but if the inspiration isn't there straight away, then you might as well forget it. But thankfully, I've never had a thing like writer's block or anything. I've always got something on the cook, and it's to me, the singing and the guitar playing and the songwriting, they're kind of all just one thing. They'll feed into each other and are influenced by each other. I would never write a song that I couldn't play on guitar. If I did, I'd just give the guitar part over to Evan. He'd make him do it. Yeah, but it's I think that's one thing that has set us apart a little bit, is that we've always been, pretty. I mean, we always do covers because we're fans as much as anything, but it's the original material that keeps us kind of that one step ahead, I think, of ourselves as much as anybody else.
The Bondis have supported some incredible acts over the years. I was reading about when you supported Junior Wells and you had the stupidity of the Australian Music Union. Can you tell us that little story?
Well, they told us because Junior Wells he had a 9-piece band. I think he had horns and all kinds of things. It was his show was like a James Brown show. It was full on. And we were just a 4-piece, and they said we couldn't do the support unless we had added an extra member. That's how simplistic their thinking was. I don't think it's like this anymore now. I don't know. I haven't been a union member, musicians union. Not that I don't support them, but it just doesn't work for me. They made us add another member, so we got Rex Hill in from the Backsliders to play with us, and it was okay. But I just felt resentful that we were even. Yeah. You can't. It's not a pit orchestra in a musical. It's a blues band. Yeah, we were lucky that Rex was sympathetic and was able to jump in and out, and it was okay. But I said I'm never going to do that again. I don't care who it is.
Crazy. Now, you also, the Bondis play all the major festivals in Australia. Is there a difference between playing in front of thousands or hundreds? Do you get the same buzz?
I find I don't play as well in front of a massive crowd. Like we did Broadbeach up in Queensland one year. I think we broke the record out in the street there. It was just unbelievable, and it's an experience. But I find I play better in front of a couple of hundred people in a bar or a small club. That's because you're sort of on show a little bit with those big, and because we don't do them every night like a lot of the big bands, like the big concert bands do. We never really get a chance to. We're a pretty good festival band. We do the job. But I prefer the more intimate thing. Certainly for playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's on Sunday week.
Yeah, we mentioned the 4-day riders. Obviously, we're talking about the Bondi Cigars. Now, the Shane Pacey trio, how did that come about? And we're really happy to say, I don't know if you realise, but we do have the Shane Pacey trio coming back to Way Out West in the middle of the year as well.
Yeah. Well, it was happening at a time when the cigars is a bit of fluctuation. Sometimes we go through long periods without working. Even now, we can go 2 months without doing a gig because we're very picky about what we do and where we go. So I have to keep, as a musician, especially getting on a little bit, I have to keep my fingers going. So I formed a trio. We actually, one of our, my ex-wife was on bass when we came down and did yours, that was years
That's
ago.
right.
That ended, and then I got Dave Fester on drums and Paul Blasi on bass, and it became a different thing, much more of a, we started out just doing blues classics, but then because the Cigars weren't doing anything, I had all these songs, so we did an album which was mainly covers. Then we did another album that was mainly original, and we just done one which is nearly all original. So it's just another thing. It's a bit different, It's not. It's more of a power trio, really.
Mm.
You'd know it was me just because of the voice and the guitar playing, but it's definitely its own. It's become its own thing with its own fans, which is really good, because you know, it's
Maybe you
not.
can work.
Sorry.
Maybe you can work out one day to support yourself.
Yeah, we did Threadbow one year where I was there with the trio and the Cigars, and it's not ideal. You're in competition with yourself. It's not. So I try not to do that. Yeah.
Now the Bondi's, I think you've got about 10 CD releases over the years. Is there anything new in the pipeline?
We've talked about it, and I've got some songs, but these days you've got to work out how to do it, because just the CD sales just seem to kind of disappear basically in the last 3 or 4. As soon as streaming started, it became a thing where without a band like us, we could actually make a profit. And of course, it's not all about money, but you don't want to be chucking money away either. So we have to work out how we're going to do it. I'm always ready to record. I've always got the songs. So we talked about it, and we'll probably get into that probably sometime in middle of the year again. Yeah, but
it's interesting with the CDs. We've found out way out west that if the bands do bring a lot of merch, they do tend to sell a bit. I think us baby boomers like to have the product in hand and the band signed it. It's sort of special to us to have that.
Yeah, you're right. I think the baby boomers are the last kind of bastion, and then you got the younger people, like the millennials who like vinyl.
Yeah. I balk at going to buy Dark Side at the Moon again and paying $80 for it when I got it for $4.99 at Brash's.
Well, I've still got my import that I bought from where was it? The Anthem in Sydney. I've still got it, the UK copy when it first came out. So I don't need to buy it again.
That's right.
But yeah, well, that's how expensive it is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's about all I had. It was just it's a brief little interview, because what I like to do is put it up on our YouTube channel and just use it as promos. So we're so looking forward to seeing the Bondi's again. It's been so long, mate. And ticket sales are going really well.
Oh, good.
Because we're normally a walk-up crowd, but we've been doing ticket sales since COVID. Just makes it easier to make plans. So we're so looking forward to it, mate. What other gigs have you got in Melbourne, just to let our people know?
We were going to be doing the Esplanade, but something happened with that, so I don't know. But all we're doing when we go down is the Bruthen thing, which is the first day. So I have a bit of driving on that day, and then come back and we're doing yours. So that really, Way Out West is the only Melbourne gig.
Oh wow!
Have
you been to Bruthen before?
Yeah, we did a very early version of that festival way back when. And I've got family connections in Gippsland, so I'm very familiar with the place.
It's a beautiful part of the world.
Once you get past the valley, once you get past, like the industrial, mind you, they've got their own charms as well. But once you get once you get past all that, it's amazing.
Yeah, and they're an interesting group of people that show up to the Bruthen Hotel as well.
Well, thanks for forewarning me. Interesting can mean a lot of things, can't it?
Yeah, that's right. All right, Shane. Well, safe travels. We'll see you shortly, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me. And I'm sorry I mucked you up the last time around.
All right, mate. It's all good.
All right. Thanks, man.
Cheers, buddy. See you.
Bye.